Let's start with something honest. You wake up, you already feel tired. Not physically, mentally. There's a long list in your head. Things you should do, things you plan to do, things you promised yourself you'd do. But somehow, nothing moves. And the first thought that hits you is, what's wrong with me? Why am I so lazy? Everyone else is doing better. But what if I told you, this isn't laziness at all? What if this is something else, something nobody prepared you for? Redefining laziness. We've been taught something very dangerous, that productivity equals worth, that rest equals weakness, that slowing down means falling behind. So the moment your energy drops, you don't ask why, you judge yourself. But real laziness is simple. Lazy people don't care. They don't feel guilty. They don't feel pressure. They don't lie awake at night thinking about how to fix their life. If you feel overwhelmed, if you feel guilty for resting, if your mind never truly switches off, you are not lazy. You are exhausted. The invisible load nobody talks about. Let's talk about something invisible. The mental load. Not the big disasters, not the dramatic failures. The small, constant weight. Bills you haven't paid yet. Messages you still need to reply to. Skills you think you're falling behind on. Comparing yourself to people online. Worrying about money without talking about it. Feeling behind without knowing why. This is not one problem. It's hundreds of open tabs in your brain. And every open tab consumes energy, even when you're doing nothing. Why motivation doesn't work anymore. Here's the truth nobody tells you. Motivation is a luxury emotion. It works when your basic needs are safe, your mind is calm, your future feels predictable. But when survival mode is on, your brain switches goals. Not growth, not ambition, safety. That's why you scroll instead of start. You procrastinate instead of plan. You avoid instead of act. Not because you're weak, but because your nervous system is overwhelmed. This phase of life has no name. This phase doesn't have a title. It's not called student life. It's not called success. It's not even failure. It's the in-between, where you're old enough to worry, young enough to still hope, stable enough to survive, unstable enough to feel lost. Nobody warns you about this phase because it looks fine from the outside, but inside, you feel constantly behind. The money pressure no one mentions. Let's talk about money quietly. Not luxury money, not millionaire dreams, just enough money. Enough to breathe, enough to stop calculating every decision, enough to rest without guilt. Financial pressure doesn't scream, it whispers. It turns rest into anxiety. It turns breaks into guilt. It turns slow days into self-hate. And slowly, silently, it drains your mental energy. Why discipline feels impossible right now. You don't lack discipline. You lack recovery. Discipline works when energy is renewable, but burnout is debt, and debt always demands interest. So every task costs more than it should. Every decision feels heavier. Every plan feels unrealistic. You're not broken. You're operating without rest in a system that never taught you how to pause. What you actually need. You don't need another productivity hack, another morning routine, another motivational quote. You need 3 things. Permission to slow down. Clarity, not pressure. Smaller goals that respect your energy. Healing doesn't start with doing more. It starts with asking less of yourself for a while. Say this slowly. I'm not lazy. I'm tired. And that makes sense. This phase does not define you. It is not permanent, and it is not a failure. It is a transition. And transitions are messy, quiet, and confusing. But they are also temporary. If you're watching this and nodding quietly, I want you to know something. You don't need to catch up with anyone. You don't need to prove anything today. Rest is not quitting. Pausing is not falling behind. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop calling yourself lazy and start treating yourself like a human.